worries.
How you been?
Yeah, I've been good. Yeah, much better.
I love that. That's good. It sounds like you're kind of maybe more stable, less impulsive. You're kind of just sitting in where you're at. I loved getting your text message yesterday about just eating to hunger, giving it grace.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I kind of have, okay, let's just calm down about all this. It's not to say, I don't want to, I want to stay where I'm at forever, or, I don't ever want to, lose weight, but it's not, this frantic, it has to be now. I'm okay with it being more natural,
Yes, that has to have allowed you to relax. Have you noticed that you are with food is less pressurized because of that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, and if I don't have to hold myself to some particular program
and perfectionism is reduced. You'll notice too that you don't have to be okay. So this is an important thing for you to witness and to observe. Just learn it. Yeah. Just learn through. It's kind of like I'm learning through experience rather than learning through memorization. You're experiencing that as you relax around your weight, that there is a relaxation that occurs around the perfectionism of your restrictions. And the impulsiveness to overeat is reduced as well. So both parts are reduced. Both aspects of how you relate to food. Meaning the first aspect of I have to be perfect in the restrictions. The second aspect of I have to go get the food now and eat it all in this moment. Right? And so that feeling you just described of it has to happen now. That feeling promotes intense perfectionism with food, promotes intense impulsiveness to binge or overeat. As you've reduced the now to relax, give it space, doesn't have to happen now, it can be later if it needs to be, you'll notice that there's a natural relaxation around the perfectionism with food, which then coincides with a relaxation around the impulsiveness to overeat or binge.
Exactly. Okay. Right. I'm not going to the point of, I'll never go to the point of, how you say, apathy. Okay, just forget it, whatever.
Well, apathy is different. That what you just described is not apathy. Right. Apathy is, it's hopeless. I have completely and total failed. There is absolutely no hope. I might as well just die. Yeah. And that's different because you still believe that it is all bad. So you're still in a position of badness. That is not the same as indifference.
Right.
Indifference, you don't think that it's a bad thing. In fact, you would rather be indifferent because the benefits. There's a major benefit to the indifference. There's a difference between apathy, which is I have completely failed. I'm a horrible person. Hide darkness. I might as well die. Bad. Again, see the positionality in that around unless it is done right, I am wrong.
Right. It's still extremism.
Totally. And it is hard to come out of apathy because you are not energized. Your whole entire beingness, it has felt loss of purpose, right? So you've attached your purpose, and you've created a loss of purpose, which is I might as well die. I've been there.
Yeah, I think maybe I've been to degrees of it.
Yeah, I would agree. Which is why you've been so impulsively trying to remove that. I mean, I get that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you go, indifference would be, you know what? And this is what I read in your notes. You were starting to feel some indifference around, which requires that you give yourself compassion and grace, right? Meaning, if it means, if I do this and I eat what is realistic and true for me, and my body stays the same, I will be okay.
Right.
That's
I'm still the same person.
And the benefit is that I'm not suffering from this crazy pendulum impulsiveness to either perfectly restrict or extremely impulsively, binge. So can you see how underneath that there's a reason why you're okay with where you're at? Because the benefit of not having to be an extremist food zealot, right? Restriction zealot.
Yeah.
Is pretty huge. So that's where you look at this, and I think and what I loved about what you were writing is you did give yourself some compassion around it, because you had written a list of things that I really love and who I am and what makes me valuable, and those are things that you could say, well, even if I'm not the thin god of all worship, I'm still a good person. So can you hear that in relation to that position, you're giving yourself some grace?
Right, and I don't have to make bitterness of being thin like the focus of my entire life. Like, because I have all these things that I've just been discounting that are super important. And I go to work and it was just something I was at work the other day and I this one girl I really like, I'm like, I can't believe we were Facebook friends. She's like, I know, you're one of my most favorite people ever,
Yes.
They just, people don't, they don't define me by that, and so why should I, I think when you die, or when, people are going and talking at your funeral, they're going to say all those things I listed. That's what people, think of me,
Yeah.
You're not going to say, oh, she was short, and she was,
she just wasn't tall enough. She just wasn't tall enough, We just shouldn't have a funeral for her. No memorials for her. So, that comes from your own, how you identify who you are. And ultimately, that's why you've suffered so much. It's not because of how other people have defined you. It's how you defined you. And yeah, it certainly helps to recognize that no one else is holding you to these standards. But in the end, what if they were holding you to those standards? Are you willing to suffer for their pleasure?
No, and I wouldn't want to be friends or anything with someone like that.
That's an important thing to connect. That's important for you to see, because even if, clearly you're seeing, well, these people aren't holding me to these standards. They're not assholes. Yeah. So therefore, why am I doing it to myself? Well, clearly it has nothing to do with what anybody else thinks, because you've been holding yourself to it, regardless of what anybody else has thought for years.
Yeah.
Right? And so it has nothing to do with other people's opinions so much as it does your opinion of what you think you need. And I think that comes back to, we talked the last few sessions about your perceptions of when you were a teenager, of what life was really like. Look at the way you believed life was like from your teenage perspective.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you've been doing this whole time.
Right, I've never progressed in.
Mm-mm. You never questioned it. You just never questioned it.
Yeah.
Never questioned it. And so now we're like, well, let's question that, and that's what you're doing. And don't feel bad. Don't feel bad or guilty, or feel like there's something wrong, or that you did something wrong by staying in that state of mind. Right, I
didn't know any different.
You didn't until you suffered enough.
Mm-hmm.
To where you were willing to open up, right, about it, to bring it out, to talk about it. It took a lot of years for you to suffer enough, trying to cope, trying to fix, trying to, chase that mirage, and realizing I don't know if I can chase this much longer, to actually question, why the hell is this mirage here anyways?
Yeah.
And is this really what life is about? Is this what life is about? Chasing thinness. Is that really what my intention, what God's purpose was for me? Is that really?
No, that just sounds so dumb.
It does, but when you're inside of it, it feels like it is. Like that is what I have to do. And then when I do that, then I'll be free to find my purpose. But, right?
Yeah.
Would you agree that it feels, what it feels like on the inside is when I reach that, I will then have a purpose.
Yeah, and life will be perfect.
But the problem, exactly. I love that you're laughing about it because that's funny. Right? Again, teenage, you're thinking from that vantage point of like a 12 or 13-year-old. Not.
Yeah.
I know. It sounds like you sound like my 7th grader.
Right, mine too.
I know.
Yeah.
And it's understandable, but the problem here is that you internalized it as truth and fact. Truth and fact. Right. Even though it's like you're progressed, you're wiser, you're actually more mature than that. It's still being held on to as truth and fact. And so that you could say in your whole life, that has been your biggest crutch, or not crutch, but problem. Is this. It's like it's like your lowest, weakest point, but yet it's defining everything because you still believe it's true and factual.
Right.
The perspective of a 7th grader is literally holding you hostage.
Yeah.
It's funny. But that's what happens when you don't address those issues. You don't address them. You don't question them. Right? Because if you could go back to, let's just say, 6th grade, 5th grade, whatever it is, would you believe that again? No, you'd be like, yeah, that's a total waste of a life right there. You can believe that, but you're about to waste a lot of your existence on something that is doesn't go anywhere, literally in circles.
Yeah, completely.
What do you get out of it? What do you get out of thinness? What do you really get?
Like you said, narcissism.
Yeah, it's all in your head. It's all this like grandeur in your head. I'm so special.
Right, and I think like I don't know why, but when I was young, I just like I craved attention. Like I told you, I craved attention, but yet I didn't want to be the center of attention. You know?
Well, that comes with pressure.
So I think that I always just kind of thought, well, okay, if I was thinner and prettier and wore these popular, if I was more popular, then like I would get all the attention, it's just right. And like, why would I still think that way as an adult?
Well, because you are not aware that attention is superficial. It's the illusion that it's love. Right? So when you say I craved attention, what you really were craving was just a feeling of love. I wanted to be loved. That's what it is. Yeah. But you've attached love to the superficial, right? The looks. You attached love to what I looked like. Mm-hmm. Right?
And I just went about getting it the wrong way, or trying to get it the wrong way.
Yeah, but you never question the belief. I will receive love by the way I look, by the way people feel about the way I look. Because really it's about by other people looking at me and thinking that I'm fabulous.
Well, because people make such a big deal about it. Oh my gosh, like, you've lost so much, people like, what have you done, and it's like, well, they certainly don't say that when you gain weight,
No, well, that's the culture of thin supremacy. Yeah. You're right. It's no different than, when in China, when people were feet binding for over 1,000 years, they passed this down generation. Oh my God, your feet are so small. Even though you can't walk. You can't walk and you're totally disabled. Your feet are so small. And then they would never tell you if your feet look bigger.
Yeah.
Very similar symbolism. If you think about it, there's symbolism attached to that. It's that when my feet are bound super small and they're between 3 and 4 inches, it means that I have self-control. I have pain tolerance, that I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I mean, so the symbolism is very similar to thin supremacy. I have self-control. I'm willing to do whatever it takes, even though I'm literally sketched out, frothing at the mouth, animalistic, hoarding and hiding food and binging and then purging and doing all sorts of crazy shit that we hide in the closet and don't tell people. But we want the symbolism of I'm special, and really what you're seeking is just to feel love, to feel lovable. Again, that's part of how we're wired, because there's nothing wrong with wanting to feel loved or lovable. That's not the problem. There's nothing wrong with wanting to feel that. Where the problem, or where this choice creates this outcome, okay, is when you don't feel lovable to yourself.
Right.
I am not lovable. I am not a lovable person. And you got to ask why and what brought you to that conclusion.
Well, and I think it was significantly more so with men and boy, like that gender. Like it didn't have that issue with women or friends.
Yeah, but the goal of being popular, what is that about? Is that about boys still for you? If I'm popular, I'll get the best guy.
Yeah, it was kind of like it always was about attention from boys, and then it led into like where I could get the attention by I don't know if so to speak, being easy or being taken advantage of.
Yeah.
And then so that's the wrong way, and then that makes you feel even worse about yourself because
but you're at the time you didn't know what was going on. You know what I'm saying?
Right. It just degrades your body. You're just like, well, now I'm just.
Yeah. Why am I doing this? But at the same time, I feel the need to do it because it provides me that sense of hope that I might be loved.
Right. It's like that saying, like, any attention is better than no attention. And so if that's what I could get easily, because,
So I want you to question that belief right there. Wouldn't you rather have no attention?
Yes.
I know.
Exactly. Than the wrong kind. Yeah.
Well, it takes you suffering to go, I'd rather not get attention than to have to live that way.
Yeah.
Because living that way isn't worth attention. I don't want the attention that living that way supports.
Yeah. But I think that's what started not respecting my body and not,
boundaries, the boundary issues. Yeah.
Yeah, and then so I abused my body because it didn't mean anything. It was just like I didn't appreciate it. Because I let people do stuff to it, when like I'm laying there thinking, I didn't enjoy it ever, I'm laying there like, what am I doing, why shouldn't be here,
just holding yourself to these arbitrary rules of you can't do this, when the truth of the matter is you're doing it for this sense of hope for love. So this is important here. The guilt and the shame and the criticism that you had internally by having sex or whatever it was, right, came from the idea you shouldn't be doing it. But did that idea include that when it comes to this desire to be loved and wanted and get to be given attention, that maybe this was a route to getting that attention?
Oh, definitely.
Not to say that I'm supporting that, but the shame and the guilt of you shouldn't do that, don't you agree that comes from a state of isolation and like putting in a vacuum, like you shouldn't live, don't live, right? Whereas in reality, you were living, and the act of having sex with someone had an intention to it. There was a purpose behind it other than I'm just getting off on sex, right? Like you sound a lot like what happened to me. I had horrible shame and guilt for having sex before marriage, but at the same time, I didn't know how to process the desire to be loved and wanted when sex was a direct route to it.
Or we thought.
The conflict. Well, of course, that was in relation to what we were our awareness at the time, right? But even then, is that not forgivable? Is there no grace for a child who is feeling so insecure and inadequate to where she doesn't know how to say no? Because there's hope for being loved, the potential for being...
It's so sad. If I had a daughter, oh my God, I would never, ever, ever, ever want her to ever do that. No.
Yeah, but you wouldn't shame her if she did.
No.
And you wouldn't make her feel like she's a terrible person if she did.
No, she means
understandable.
Nature, yeah.
Yeah, you would want to address the issue.
Yeah.
Not the sex.
Oh, right. I mean,
that's my point. That's my point. Yeah.
And no one ever talked to me about that.
No one ever talked to me about that.
No.
Right? You don't talk about that. You're just not allowed to have sex. But never, ever address the issues for why you would do it.
Right.
That have nothing to do with pleasure. Nothing to do with pleasure.
Right. And like I was saying, if it was the boy that I truly loved, I think then that would have been a lot different. Then I think maybe my sexual relationships would have maybe been more healthy, but since it wasn't, and it started out
with that insecurity
in a park bench with an awful experience, I thought I was going to die. I was like, oh my gosh, I was so scared, never saw the guy again. From then on, it just
So did you feel terrible about yourself? Oh, did you feel?
Yes.
Okay, that right there. Okay, so pause for a second. Yeah. That right there, the feeling of shame and guilt.
Not from a religious perspective.
It doesn't matter. It's still in it doesn't have to be religious. It comes from a form of dogma around what you should and shouldn't do sexually, right?
Well, because I didn't even know him, and so how could I even have any feelings for him?
I know you were just.
I was a piece of meat laying on this bench for him to just do whatever,
Yeah.
It was awful, and I just wanted it over with because I wanted to, like I was telling you before, I wanted to prove to myself that something wasn't wrong with me, and then I just wanted to get it over with, but that's so
Yeah. Do you see how you rape yourself?
Yeah, I mean, now I regret, I don't regret it, but
Well, all I'm wanting you to do at this moment is to look at it with compassion. To go, that isn't worth feeling ashamed about. I didn't understand what was going on anyways. Plus, I didn't really grasp why I was doing it. And you do now. You now have context around it to go, I was just wanting someone to like me.
Yeah.
And that's a direct route to temporarily feeling lovable. And of course, at some point, you probably were like, oh my God, I wonder if I'll see him again. And it just fizzled out. But, because there's hope in that. The idea that you shouldn't do that. So even if it wasn't religious, if the idea is you should wait until you're with someone you love, well, sure. Of course, if you don't have these issues, so you had these issues, is waiting until you were with someone who you love, and is that realistic for someone who has these issues of not feeling lovable?
No.
You got it. So the idea that you should wait is actually wrong.
Yeah.
No.
No, not wrong.
No, it is wrong because it applied to the person. It's unrealistic. You have these underlying issues. It's unrealistic to say you're never going to do something that's desperate to feel loved.
Yeah.
Makes sense because you have that desperate need to feel loved. So you're prone to be taken advantage of.
Oh, yes.
Makes sense? So holding you to this idea would require that you address those issues and actually heal those issues, develop a sense of intrinsic worth, and then have boundaries, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you see where it's like, okay, then that idea obviously is beneficial. Wait till you love someone. You have boundaries. You don't need their love. You're willing to be rejected. That takes quite a bit of maturity.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when someone is immature and they're in an adult body-ish, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to hold yourself to these ideals when you don't really understand how to do that. So what I'm trying to get you to do is go, oh, of course anybody under that way of thinking about themselves would do that.
Oh, yeah.
It's not I'm a bad person, right? Yeah. It's not that I'm a bad person, not that I don't have a good heart. It's just that I was suffering or struggling with my own sense of worth from inside of myself. So I was gravitating to other people feeding it to me.
Yeah.
And, at that age, sex is a very fast way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so the point is to give yourself, look at the shame and the guilt and the self-judgment that you felt inside at that point, and how that would then promote this goal of controlling and getting your shit together, and I got to improve myself, to get rid of that feeling of badness that you felt.
Yeah, exactly.
Connect the dots to when you started to become really controlling, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, definitely in high school.
Yeah. So going back to, the truth of your actual worth, take all conditions out of it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, I'm learning to appreciate my body now. Before it was like, okay, I don't even care about my body unless it looks a certain way. But then, now, I was just, when I was at work the other day, I was like, gosh, this person has so many issues, so many, physical, so many ailments. And I'm like, I have this perfect body. It functions perfectly. It gets me where I need to go. I don't have all these ailments, so, and I haven't been appreciating it. I was telling it to the doctor. She's like, well, yeah, we just need reminding sometimes. It's hard to always think like that, but
yeah. Well, the problem is that you have a standard for the body that is out of reality, and so you're taking the real body you have, and those standards put the body you're in, which is totally perfect, and makes it catastrophic. Right? The catastrophizing. That's called cognitive distortion. So you're distorting what is real by holding it to something that is fake or fantasy. So you've made fantasy real. And what that does, it's like takes the center point. Think of it like a balance, like a teeter-totter. The center point, when you create reality from a fantasy, so the fantasy you think is real, then what happens to reality is it shifts into the negative.
Mm-hmm.
Because your neutral point or 0 point is a fantasy.
Yes, exactly.
That doesn't exist in reality. So you're looking at the body you have, and it's horrible. Disgusting. I have to hide. Mm-hmm. I can't even go on vacation. It's like you have leprosy, basically. Modern day leprosy. Yeah, like you're a pariah.
Mm-hmm.
When in reality, there's nothing wrong. You have no problems, right? So what you're describing is this undistorting. You're going through a process of undistorting your perception. You're realizing, holy shit, I have nothing wrong. Holy crap.
Maybe I'm short, but
what's wrong with that?
That's still, I still can run and walk, and, I still...
Yeah, but even then, what's wrong with shortness? What's wrong with
nothing. I mean,
so you don't need to compensate in your mind, well, I can do this and I can do that, so being short is okay because I have compensatory ways to balance it out. Is really this shortness need to have a balance with something positive to make up for it?
No.
Just think about that for a second. Is shortness something that is negative? Again, is if you're short or taller, and what defines shortness? I mean, because you realize if you were to go to Korea, you're tall right now.
Yeah. Well, I guess, yeah. I guess I just conjured up this, I just conjured up all this, I think, because it was made a big deal, and, everyone would call me Shorty, and, I was kind of made a big deal, and so I always just thought that, oh, God, it sucks being short, and I'm fatter, if I was taller, I'd be stretched out, I mean, I couldn't, wouldn't show as much when I came, I was just
see how it's like, so you can see, like, your beliefs about the body and what it's supposed to be has catastrophized the body you have. So which one is true? Which one's true? The body you have?
Yes.
Or the body that you have in your fantasy?
The body I have.
Right? So
5 foot body that I have.
You got it. That's the truth. So you have to, can you accept the truth?
Yeah. Yes, I think I can now, I mean, my husband loves me just the way I am.
Okay, get him out of the picture. This has nothing to do with him. I'm asking you if you can accept. Can you accept it? One thing that I'm noticing that you're doing is a coping mechanism, is gravitating to other people's opinion to validate if you should believe that or not. Mm-hmm. My husband's okay with it, therefore I am. So I want you to recognize that, because that ultimately is keeping you from taking 100% responsibility for your recovery. So in essence, you're not consciously doing this. I don't think you're not consciously doing this, but I'm bringing it up so you're consciously aware of how you're displacing your recovery onto other people's opinion.
Yeah.
They're okay with it, so I guess I can be okay with it. It's like getting permission.
Right. I do that a lot with, in terms of even making any decisions, or, I think I, like you said, subconsciously do that.
Yeah. So I want you to force yourself to look at this as if you're the only one that can do this. Because it's your body. It's not your husband's. Yeah. It's not, your body it's not his. I could see if it was his body, he owned your body, that you would need to know what his opinion is about it.
Right. It doesn't matter because
he's not in it.
Yeah, and all those years, no matter how much he did love me, he could have told me a million times, and it didn't matter because if I didn't feel it myself,
5 foot was good enough, was fine for him. He clearly didn't have a problem with 5 foot. But either way, you have to. It doesn't matter. You got to get to where his opinion about it is an illusion of. Right. Because it's not the body he's attached to. I'm the one that's actually using the air it's breathing. I'm the one who's experiencing the sight that it's giving me. The sound that I hear, the body I'm in is actually allowing me to have an awareness of what that sound is.
Yeah.
I'm not hearing his ear sound. I'm hearing the bodies that I'm in. I'm the one that's experiencing the language it's providing for me. The linguistics. You're not doing shit. Mm-hmm. So you're the one experiencing this physical reality, right? Mm-hmm. This is the truth. So the fantasies that you've wanted have been completely irrelevant this whole time.
And unrealistic.
Well, that's what I meant. They're very irrelevant. Yeah. They're not even, they don't exist. You've only been in what does exist. Does it make sense to criticize what does exist when criticism does nothing to it?
No. Right.
It's like you wasted your life away trying to fix the body.
Yes, I did.
I know.
Exactly.
Feeling bad about it. What does that do?
Nothing.
I know. It just, you feel bad. That's what it feels. It does nothing except for you feel bad. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't change anything. So it's like I am 5'9", okay? My size of foot is 10. What does that have to do with my ears functioning, my sight functioning, the skin working the way it's supposed to work, my ovaries working? What did it have to do with my labor and delivery, you know?
Right.
What does that have to do with my hair graying and the fact that, like, you know, nothing. It has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
It doesn't change the beauty that I feel when I go out in nature, whether I was 5 foot or 5'9" or in a wheelchair. The nature is beautiful, right? So the illusion that the body and the way it looks, okay, just keep in mind, it's the way it looks changes reality is not real. That's an idea.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even a reality, because the beach is the same. Whether you have 5 pounds of fat, 10 pounds of fat, 20, it's the same sand, the same air, the same seagulls.
Right, and
the same
really, why are you there?
Well,
to show off your body, you know?
Yeah, to who? To your. Yeah, and the funny thing is to show off your body to who? Well, it's to yourself, because it's self-righteous.
Right.
Look at me, I'm so beautiful. No one actually gives a shit.
Right, exactly.
I came to the beach to see the pretty people who think that they're beautiful and want us to look at them.
Right, so I could be like one of them.
Yeah, you are. I'm not going to lie. You are. That's why you won't go to Lake Havasu. Because I want people to see me as a goddess and look at me as if I'm bringing them shine and sunlight. And if I don't have that, then I won't go.
Yeah.
Doesn't it just sound like you're in 7th grade?
Oh, exactly.
Well, you got to you got to at some point expose yourself to reality. And the only way that's going to happen is if you let go of your fantasies. Because they don't exist, right?
Yeah, right.
That you have to become aware of. Fantasies don't even exist. They're all it's all an illusion in my head. And that those illusions are running my life. You know? So,
completely, yeah.
Yeah, to go into reality now and just tell yourself the truth. You know, it's like, how would you relate to this body now? Knowing what it is as it is, would it make sense to continue to hold this body to what it's not?
No.
And if you do, you are going to be stuck with what it takes to change it, right? This was what I realized. It was what I'm doing to maintain where I'm at. If it was natural, I wouldn't have to do everything I'm doing.
Right.
So it's unnatural what I'm doing. It's not real. It's a lie. I'm lying to everybody. Because I'm not going to tell them I just worked out for 2 hours straight with my heart rate at 190 beats per minute. My friggin' heart rate monitor, making sure that I go to full and complete exhaustion. And that I micromanaged my calories to where I'm eating less than 1,800, less than 1,200, depending on my activity. And then if I ate too much, I puked it up. I'm not going to tell them that. I'm just going to show them my godly body. Look at me! Never mind the insanity and the suicidal thoughts I'm having. You know? So and when it came down to I'd rather die than to let this go, I had to go into, well, if I stop what I'm doing, isn't that the same as suicide? Because I would be basically allowing the body to be what it really is then. Feels like suicide to do that.
Right.
Does that make sense to you? I'm not saying that's how you feel, but does that make sense to where the balancing act of all of this occurs is between what you're holding yourself to and what it takes to get there. If it takes insanity and an eating disorder Is it really as beneficial as your fantasy said it was?
No, and
that's the reality. That's the reality.
I never even got to where the fantasy, like, that wasn't, I wasn't even close. So it's like, you know, what would life be like trying to, if I ever got to that place, you know, there's just no way. It's completely.
Well, your whole life becomes what it takes to get there and stay there. That's what life becomes about. And for me, it was so on the edge of such extremism and perfectionism that life wasn't even worth living anymore. So the only way for me to it was either suicide or let it go.
Mm-hmm.
So letting it go was like dying. It was like exposure. It was like everybody's if I let this go, this is what it takes just to stay where I'm at. I'm going to be fucking huge. I'm going to be like 500 pounds.
Right. In reality, that doesn't really happen.
No, but that's what my reality was telling me because I was so distorted. Just to stay the same, I would have to basically try to keep my calories in, calories out at 0. That's what my mind believed in.
Right.
Okay,
right.
You're hearing that going, what? That's fucking crazy. Well, what's the difference between what I'm doing and what you've been doing?
Oh, nothing.
I know. It's just a different ratio, right? It's just a different paradigm. Same goal. End goal.
Yeah.
Different.
I used to do the same thing with exercise. Like, the longer I do it for, you know, like, I'm not going to stop till I burn 500 calories. Like,
oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't do that anymore, but, like...
Yeah, you just do it in a different way, or you have been, like with the protocol, or with your keto, you're trying to manage it in a different way, and you're still living in insanity.
Yeah, it's always been, it's been different forms of insanity, because I've done the, like, writing everything down, counting the counting, it's just, like, all that. I've done it.
Well, and the key here, too, is that as you progress through this, and you're starting to learn the hunger scale, you're trying to use that you don't do the same thing to the hunger scale, right? Where the hunger scale becomes your new thin safe zone.
No, I mean, I've just been kind of experimenting with it, and, like, you know, it's being more, like, I'm trying to be more aware, like, because I think I used to just live in this, like, subconscious, you know, like, I wouldn't even think about things. You know, I just lived in this, like, this floating along space, just, like, going through days and weeks and years, just kind of floating along and not really, like, experiencing emotions and not really, like, enjoying things and not really, like, thinking about things.
Yeah, you're just distracted. What you're describing is total, complete distract yourself. Just
yes. Like you said, so I don't feel anything, and so not being aware of any, you know, really, and so I've been trying to, like...
Or in denial, complete denial.
Yeah. And being more aware, and it's like, oh gosh, this is... You know, it's really bizarre because it takes a lot for me, like, the few days I've been doing it, I've been always between, like, 4 and 5. Like, I never even get to, like, it takes a lot for me to get to, like, a 3.
You mean to get too hungrier? Yeah, you just gotta wait.
You know, and so I was like, well, do I, you know, like, basically I could probably not eat all day.
Well, it might be that way because of your inflammation caused from your fear, right? For whatever reason, you just have to let it happen and not be afraid of the body.
Right, and so, you know, I guess I just always used to think I was hungry than I actually am.
Yeah, well, and that's the case for people who constantly feel restricted and deprived.
And so, so I was always eating, you know, all the time, pretty much any time when I wasn't hungry, you know, because, and so, you know, so then the only kind of issue I, like, kind of run into now is that, you know, like, there's all these good things and I want them, but, like, and I know I have to wait till I'm hungry.
Yep, and then you get the choice.
Like, you know, I don't get hungry that much, and then it doesn't take that much to take the other way. And
Yeah, so
then
you maybe shouldn't rely on food to be all that in your life.
Right. I mean, yeah, I'm finding it. Yeah, it just takes a little bit.
Yeah, so
what
you're describing is what I addressed in Weight Loss Apocalypse, the original Weight Loss Apocalypse. I'm writing another edition to it.
Right.
And so what I found is that when people have this underlying strain with body image and fear of their own body, and they aren't willing to allow the body to be what it is, they have a very difficult time eating to hunger because they don't trust the hunger scale, or they don't trust their body can manage food to keep them safe from the weight gain they're afraid of. And so the idea I wrote in Weight Loss Apocalypse in 2011 is really quite idealistic. It's very, very, it's almost impossible when someone is holding on to these body image issues.
Mm-hmm.
What I found over the last 7 years working with people and making adjustments to the approach to address body image first is that as people's reliance and need for thinnerness diminished and their empathy and lovingness towards themselves, regardless of their weight, as they became more loving and compassionate of their circumstance, on both sides, it just relaxed everything. This brings us back to what we talked about at the beginning of this session, which is like, as you relax with the body image, the issues with food naturally, without effort, diminish. Once that occurs, now we can actually go into, well, what is hunger? What does it feel like? Because now it's a logical process. It's like how I wrote in Weight Loss Apocalypse. So there's, in this next edition that I'm writing, there are additional objectives to the method. So the method actually is first to tackle the mind, second the body.
Yeah.
The mind-body method, right? Mm-hmm. And so I truly believe in this work that you and I have done together, that everything that you've gone through up until this point has been to your benefit so that you can see what is going on. Mm-hmm. Right? You jumping back on the protocol, you having all of that, like, I can't do it. So beneficial for you to witness, it.
Yeah.
And to go, holy shit, I have to push pause right now. I got to push pause because I can't keep on doing the same thing. I'm doing the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Right? So the benefit for you right now is we're looking at the mind aspect of what has to be resolved for you to truly stop this pattern. You don't have to take the same pattern of behavior. You don't have to keep on doing this. If you just change the underlying view and beliefs that promoted those patterns and behaviors that were so radical, right?
Mm-hmm.
So looking at your relationship with your body, just that alone, how you relate to it. Can you relate to it differently now that you're an adult? Now that you're so much more aware, do you really need to feel so bad about it?
No.
Right? So take that alone. Don't you agree? That alone will completely adjust how you're treating your body.
Yes.
No. Just that you're not, it is what it is, and it's pretty dang good. So it's just, it's adjusting it to where you're like, wow, I'm actually got a great, why would I complain about something like this? I got the luxury body. I have no ailments. Nothing.
Yeah. And I guess I still need to work on, thinking someone's body still, like, I could believe I have a great body, but that's like me in my house by myself, or me with people who are similar to me.
Yeah, and so when I'm
with people who, who I think look better than me, and that's still where
that tells me you still believe that idea, that the way people look means that they're better people. So you still believe the way that people look, and if they are attractive, means that they are better people.
Yeah, like, I don't know how to get that. I think, I don't know
Well,
how to get that out of my head.
You have to, well, it's really about what you think about yourself, and then you project that onto others. So you have to look at, is the body I'm in and how it's, what it's compared to, because you're comparing it to something. Is that
other people, I think.
No, those other, the standards. Because you're comparing other people to standards as well. It's always an image in your head you're holding people to and yourself to. Right? So they meet whatever standards you internalized. Therefore, they're more attractive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. So it's not the other people. It's the standards that you compare other people to. And if they meet those standards, therefore they are better people. So you think the standard in your head is where betterment exists. Okay?
Yeah.
Did that make any sense?
Yeah, and you know, so I think I can learn to accept my body. I need to learn how to not compare it to this, or get the standard out of my head.
Okay, that happens when you actually accept your body. And it's not learn how to. You don't learn how to accept your body. You accept your body, or you don't.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. The only way for you to accept your body is to get rid of the ideal you've been comparing it to.
Right. Right.
The ideal you're comparing it to, is it even a possibility?
No.
Okay, so
no.
So
no.
So let's just stay right there. Okay, let's just stay right there. It's not even possible. So why is it still in your head? Because the only reason you'd hold on to is if you think it's achievable. You think
right.
it's achievable.
I believe it's not achievable, but I don't know why I still think that.
You think it's achievable. You have to. This is, right, you have to believe it's achievable. Otherwise, you wouldn't hold yourself to it. Right? You wouldn't.
Well, no, I don't think it's not like I'm holding myself to it, but I still, like, in a perfect world, I would still rather look like that. I know that, I can't, you know, I don't even want to, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and then there's the symbolism that you've attached to that, as if, it's like, I would rather look like that because why?
They get more attention, they have more fun. I mean, it's kind of, that's about it.
Yeah, but is it the body that does that? Is it the way?
No. I mean,
the attention and more fun. Just think about, where does someone's fun come from?
It comes from within.
Okay, are you feeling that, or are you just saying that from a mental construct?
Probably a mental construct.
Okay, mental construct would be, it's an idea of fun. It's an idea that it comes from within, but when you feel it, you'll go, no, it comes from it comes from a sense of connectedness and ease and gratitude. There's a gratitude aspect to it. It comes from the willingness to just allow things to be as they are. Being present in the moment, right? Think of the times you've had tons of fun. You're so present. It's like just being a part of something as it is.
Yeah, see, I think I distorted. I've gone so long with, like, not even knowing what defines fun for me and what I find fun, and like, it's gotten so distorted that I have in my head that the times when I had the most fun was when I was at this certain weight, and so I was confident, and all that narcissism, you know.
Yeah. So it's always under the condition of narcissism. Yeah.
You know,
so what would happen if you went blind? So I really, anybody who's watched my YouTube videos for years know I go to this all the time. Blindness. How would that change things? Because you can't see what someone looks like to know if they're having fun or not. You know, if they're thin and hot, I won't know that they're having fun because they have to be seen as thin and hot to have a good time.
Or I guess.
And how do I know if I'm having a good time if I can't see that I look good? Do you hear that?
Right. Or I guess it's like, I think it's the way I feel, the way I felt, like inside and about myself, which kind of gave me this confidence that I associate with having more fun.
So what would happen if you went blind? What would happen to your fun meter? Do you not have access to fun without thinking you're hot and sexy? Because if that was the case, blindness would mean you are no longer allowed to have fun.
Right. I think it's just what I've associated. Like,
you got it. It's attachment. You've attached it to that. And it's such a tiny little speck of existence that you can have fun if you have to meet those standards, right?
Yeah, I think I used to have fun. You know, my husband, we used to go kayak and, you know, bike, and like we used to do things, and I wasn't always thin, and I would have fun with him. And I think it's got, like, you know, since I've gotten older, I just, like, when I go out, I don't know, I think because I just associate now fun with going out partying and, like, you know, getting all dressed up and going out and getting drunk, you know. I like to think, I don't know, it's so weird. Like, I think I have to redefine what is fun.
Well, yeah, well, and you need to redefine it. That's what it is redefine. Yeah. What is that feeling? And, you know, that's why I go to the concept of blindness. Right? Because that takes it away from sight, you know, which is a way to, you know, it's like environmental, seeing the environment, but is fun defined by the environment looking a certain way to have fun? Is that what it is? Because that's a small, tiny little speck of existence that you're living in. Right? And it's defined by the opinion of your body looking good. That, you know, so think about how much smaller even that is. Can you imagine that you can only have fun if you look a certain way? So again, imagine going to a birthday party. You can't just exist in the birthday party, can you? Imagine just experiencing a birthday party that is not sensually circling you like you're the sun of thinness, right? Just imagine if you could just exist in a birthday party. And it had absolutely nothing to do with you in any way.
Yeah. I think I understand.
It would be amazing. You could actually experience it and just exist in it and just allow it to be. And if people want to do piñata, they can do piñata. If they're going to do, you know, something like, just think of all the fun ways to celebrate life.
Mm-hmm.
And just it being a part of it. And it's like existing in it. It's like going with the wave of it. Floating on your back. Whee! Letting it just be.
Yeah.
you were blind, you'd be listening to people, you would be wanting to hear the laughter, and you'd want to, you know.
Yeah, I guess I think it goes back to, like, oh, well, you know, this person, it's hard to explain, like, I guess it's easier for me to have, it's the same thing, like it's easier for me to be friends with someone who's more like me, like, it's harder for me to be friends with someone who I think fits this ideal mold, you know, and then, like, I need to learn how to be friends with someone like that.
Well, you would have to learn to connect with people without sight.
Yeah, okay.
Again, go back to how would you connect with people if you were blind? Like, go into blindness.
Okay. Yeah, because, like, I still want to be friends. You know, I mean, it's like it. Just
go into it. Practice this. You're blind. Just imagine you cannot see.
Okay.
And we're going to the beach.
Okay.
What would you...
I've never been able to see?
No, something happens and you go blind. So you can imagine what it looks like because you've seen it before. So we go to the beach, we sit, get your chair, we get y'all set up. And what's the first thing you want to experience?
Well, I guess, yeah, you'd have to use your other senses.
Yeah. Think about what was the
listening to the waves.
Totally. Don't
feeling
you?
Feeling the sand, yeah.
Wouldn't you take a huge breath in through the nose?
Yeah, yeah.
Smelling the salt, seaweed. You dig your feet into the sand, right? You'd be like, oh.
Right. I wouldn't even think about what other people are looking like.
Yeah, you wouldn't. Why would you do that? Why does that even matter what people look like?
Right. And I just
feel the difference.
Maybe I need to be blind.
Well, that's exactly what I'm guiding you to do, is to be less sight dominant and defining of people based on a comparison of what you think they should look like from what they do look like. So the blindness part of this should be really hopeful for you because you can feel the difference. Oh, I wouldn't even care. Yep, that's what it's like. That's what it's like when you stop thinking in terms of eyesight.
I know. I wish I... Yeah,
you can. We're working on it. We're working on it. That's a good sign. The fact that you're like, oh, I wouldn't even care. You got it. You wouldn't care.
When I open my eyes, then I care again.
Well, why would you care if the problem is that you are holding people and yourself to a certain idea of what you think they should look like. Yeah. That it doesn't exist in reality. They can't just look like the way they look like. They have to go into my fantasy imagery of what they're supposed to look like. Therefore, the beach sucks. Again, the fantasy in your head is why you're miserable. It's not reality. It's your fucked up fantasy that is doing that. Your reality is fantastic. It's, So again, go to the beach blind and tell me what it would be like. You can hear, the seagulls, and you hear the whoosh, and there's kids, and they're giggling, and they're laughing, and you can hear them,
Be free. Like, I'd be free to
enjoy the beach.
Experience life. Like, what matters the most, which I've never been doing that. Like,
okay, so we're going to sit at the beach, and I come and I'm like, oh, hi, I have my friend here. Her name is Alice. This is, Karen Ellis, and she's like, hi, how are you? And tell me how you would, hi, where are you from? The conversation you would all of a sudden be engaging with this person from a totally different level.
Right.
You wouldn't be going, well, if she's fat or if she's skinny, I'm disconnected.
Yeah. Or I feel insecure. I feel
nothing. You would feel nothing. You would feel connected.
Then I have to put on my fakeness.
Yeah, you would. that would be gone. That would be gone.
Yeah, that would be.
You could just be real. You'd just be like, where'd you go to school? Oh, I know someone who went there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? What do you do for a living? Oh, yeah. You would actually be connecting from the heart.
Yeah. Yeah. How do I do that with my eyes open?
Though you would have to let go of your fantasies. You'd have to stop. This is the thing. Karen, you actually believe that the way people look defines if they're happy or not. You believe it. That's why. The only way for you to go blind to people is that you don't believe that shit anymore. You see it as a crock of shit. It is the dumbest shit ever. It's like horrible belief pattern that is an illusion that doesn't exist. It's like the way people look is irrelevant to their experience in reality.
And I guess my best friend, she looks like, she looks like that, but yet she still fights with her husband. She still has issues with her kids, and like when she tells me these things, I'm like, oh,
how could that be? Because you have a beautiful body.
Right. Right.
It has nothing to do with the body. Your body has nothing to do with your consciousness and how you process things. The way you look has nothing to do with your emotional maturity.
Right, and I know people who are rich, they're not always happy. People who are beautiful aren't always happy because, that's what the media makes it look like. But then in reality, like what these actresses and models have to do to look like that. I mean, look how unhappy a lot of these people. They all commit suicide and are on drugs and stuff.
Yeah, it has nothing. So this is your wisdom coming through here. That wisdom needs to be update the 7th grader emotional perspective around the way you look ultimately, and you have to go into your own heart and soul and ask, do I really want the way that I look and the perceptions of the way I look to define my experience at a beach? Why? I just want to experience the beach. I want to be blind to the meaning of what people look like. And so what you do is you don't give it meaning. You decide. It's an actual decision within yourself that the way you look doesn't define. It's not even you. It's the body. The way the body is and looks is irrelevant to how I experience the beach.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I mean, like when we were at the beach just the other weekend, like I was perfectly fine walking on the beach and,
until the moments that you think you're ugly and bad and people hate you and it sucks and my life sucks, right?
Well, no, it's just because, like, that beach there wasn't all these skinny people laying out in bathing suits. You know what I mean? Like that would, then I get distracted, and then
Then you would say, well, my experience at the beach is less than their experience at the beach, so it sucks.
Or I just, like, I can't look at that and can't, like, I need to just focus on, look at the scenery, look at, it's so beautiful. Like, why do I need to not care about these people,
Well, you got to see past the illusion that their experience of the beach is any different than your experience. The beach is still the same beach.
Yeah.
They're not experiencing a different beach, a different air, a different wind, a different sun. Nothing's different. That's an illusion to think. That's like a mental concept that their beach is better than your beach when you're not as thin, right? So you'd have to see the illusion you'd have to see it as an illusion, not as a fact. So the problem right now is you think it is fact. Their beach is better than my beach. Because the body I'm in isn't meeting this concept, but theirs is closer to the concept. The concept that you're holding on to, that is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
If there was no concept of thin supremacy, what would change?
Everyone would be the same.
No one, it would be about the beach. It would be about the beach.
Right.
If there was no concept of thin supremacy that you actually believed in, how would your experience be at the beach?
Right. It would be wonderful.
It'd be like the blind person. Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you believe thin people are superior. Therefore, so do you see how that happens? It's the belief in thin supremacy. It is this idealistic concept that is distorting your experience in reality. Because you believe it, you actually change your perception of the beach when thinner people are there. You'd have to look at thin supremacy and question if it's actually superior. In reality, if someone believes in thin supremacy, what's their experience like at the beach?
Not good.
No. Is it really superior?
They don't even notice
the beach.
They don't even notice the important part.
Not at all. And you're speaking from experience right now. And if anybody's better or thinner than them, it destroys their whole experience. Because the goal is to compete for who's thinnest. So the thin supremacy, is it really as superior as you thought it was? In reality. There's a fantasy about it. Like there's a fantasy. Right. Oh, the fantasy is when you're thinner, your life is better. But the actual reality is if you believe in thin supremacy, your life is miserable. You're a miserable person.
Yeah.
Miserable person with all sorts of eating disorders, weird low self-esteem, constantly judging your body and others, completely disconnected, emotional immaturity. You never really develop a sense of connection to people from the heart. It's always superficially based. Is it really thin supremacy? Or is it thin horror story? So the issue you're having is you actually believe that thin supremacy is a better reality.
Yeah.
When it's not. In reality, that's a fantasy. So you have to be able to say, that's a fantasy. That's not even, if I believe that, that destroys my relationship with the beach. I can't even go to the beach.
That's prevented me for years of not living life and experiencing.
So should you be holding it as superior? Should you really be holding it as better then?
No.
There's your answer. How do we solve this? Well, there you go. You might want to rethink the belief that you just internalized as a truth. Is it really true? Is this concept of thinner supremacy really true in its superiority? Or is it just an illusion of superiority when in reality you're miserable? You're miserable, disconnected, self-centered, narcissistic.
Right. And it's not fair for other people because, it's almost like, well, I don't even want to be friends with, I don't like them because they're better than, it's like they didn't do anything.
No, they're so you have to go in and start questioning those beliefs because you just accepted them as truth without even questioning them.
Right.
Yeah, you might want to question.
They could be a mean person. They could be or super nice. I don't even, I don't ever give them a chance to know who they really are.
Well, because you are relying more on the truth of your belief than you are the truth of reality.
Right.
So is it you really need to go in and question the dogma that you just accepted as truth without looking at it intellectually, look at it emotionally. I mean, look at this. You're holding your whole concept of going to the beach to a standard of thinness that actually destroys your relationship with people, the beach. It's just so tense. You can't even enjoy it. Is the belief really superior? And is this something that you would teach your family, your kids? You want everybody to know about thin supremacy? It's so great.
No.
Being thinner is so great, you guys. Let me tell you how it's impacted my life.
Well, I mean, I've never really been thin. So.
Yeah, well, how's that? You're still holding yourself to it. How's that working out for you?
Right, not good.
Right? So go in there and you need to look at it and question it. I'm over here saying, okay, you might want to look at that. You need to question this. I can't do it for you. I can't question it for you. I can't make you.
Right.
You have to take the time after this session and contemplate. The more you contemplate what we talk about in these sessions, the more this is going to start working for you. Because you're there. You're in a position of willingness. So don't just hear it and go, okay, well, yeah, I'm not going to change. No. What is it going to take for you to change?
To think about it and
change it.
Believe it. Truly believe.
Yeah. Like,
yeah,
I would never encourage anybody to go and define their experience at the beach, whether they're thin enough or not.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't hold myself to that either. That's ridiculous. I just want to experience the goddamn beach.
Right.
So I am no longer holding myself to this concept of thin supremacy. And the beauty of doing that and releasing yourself from it, because you see it as a bunch of bullshit, is you actually don't care about what anybody else experiences, whether they're thin or fat or anything in between. You're hoping that they can experience the beauty of the beach like you are now. And then you'll see someone who's really into themselves and you're going to go, oh, I used to be like that.
Mm-hmm.
Too bad they're not really experiencing the beach. They're just experiencing themselves. So.
Yeah, I need